Hello, everyone. So the trailer for Armor King just came out. We're going to sit down. We're going to review it. We're going to analyze it, figure out what he's doing, what exactly his unique traits and aspects are, and try to get more of a glimpse into what's actually going on with Armor King. If you want to see my initial reaction to the trailer live, then you can check the link down below. It's going to be on the second channel. Also, I apologize if I look a little bit disheveled. I just woke up. I went to bed as soon as top 8 ended, and I woke up and just a couple minutes ago, and I'm getting this recorded right now so I can get up as early as possible. So anyway, let's get into the trailer and see what there is to see.
Now,
all right, so the first thing I want to say while they're doing this little intro for Armor King, I'm so glad they did this. I have been saying for years at this point, even going back in the Tekken 7, that they need to be doing more of these cinematic like intros or trailers or story things for characters to get people who might not necessarily be in the Tekken more invested into the characters. There's an entire video I want to make talking about this topic, but one of the problems I think with Tekken is that they don't do anything to get the average player invested in the game, or specifically the character that they play, right? And I think one major reason for that, one big thing that's missing, is that they don't lean into individual character stories. They don't try to allow the players to form any sort of attachment to the character. Instead, the character is just like, they just exist in game, and that's kind of it. So I'm really happy to see that they're starting to do more of this stuff with Armor King, and all of the unique stuff that they did for him as well is really awesome. So anyway, let's get into a little bit of the gameplay now. So there's a little bit that's going on here. First off, forward 4, neutral 2 goes into stance, and you can see that little symbol with the hit effect as well. Really cool stuff. This isn't a stance that he's had before. Armor King has had stances before, but nothing quite like this. And you can see off the forward 4, neutral 2 here, he does this quick low. Falcon tries doing something, and he ends up getting counter hit. Maybe we can see. It looks like he tries doing forward 3 or something slow. So it's hard to tell right now if you can like power crush through this or down jab it, because we frankly just don't know the frames. But one thing that it does look like is that when this hits, you know, you're left standing, it's not like you're in a crouching state, so you might have access to like down jab or power crush. And that doesn't necessarily mean then, if that's the case, that this stance mix up that he gets is free, you know? I mean, it's similar to King. You know, King does forward 4, neutral 2, he's left plus, and in a way King's doing the exact same thing afterwards, right? Because he's left plus after the low, he's free to kind of do whatever he wants, right? If you hit a button and he wants to counter hit you, he has back 1 too, you know? So King is still getting a stance mix-up without the stance. There are a lot of similarities, but how that nuance works with Armor King in this sense, obviously, we would need to see. Falcon is doing quite a slow move here afterwards, so there is, again, the potential that you could, like, sidestep this to option select. You could down jab, you could power crush, and that's sort of been the norm in Season 2, is that when characters go into these mix-ups after they do a move that goes into stance, particularly if it's a mid on block or a low on hit, then there is some way to be able to option select it. Like with Elisa, for example, down 2 in DES going in the dual boot, you can sidestep right, depending on the character, most if not all of her options. So that's something we're just going to have to see in the future. But, you know, I looked at this the first time and I was like, uh-oh, that doesn't look good. But it might not be that bad. And the low as well on counter hit isn't egregious. He's not like getting heat. He's not getting an install. He's not getting a combo like you would see with maybe Lars or Falcon. He just gets a guaranteed follow-up, which I'm sure is going to do a bit of damage, but it's not going to be huge unless, of course, that stun breaks the floor, but I doubt that. So moving on to the next thing here, we have a big counter hit mid that he does some sort of like forward 2 input. It's very hard to tell if these are moves that he had before in previous Tekken games, because it's at least to me, it's kind of blending together with the stage because of how dark and red it is, and Armor King's kind of blending in. So I apologize if I'm missing out on that, but yeah, Armor King gets a follow-up here. He gets a combo. And he particularly has a new mid off of his 3+4 string. And we see this later in the trailer. He does 3+4, 3+4, which is a attack throw high that can break the floor. And he has had a mid before that hasn't been particularly amazing, but now he has this new mid that he can use, at least this looks like a mid, that he's using here for combo fill, but might be able to mix up with that high extension that breaks the floor. So that's something to look out for. And it looks like here as well after that, goes here, goes into stance, right? And then he does a mid-high, and we see later in the trailer that same move in that stance has a mid-mid that gives an attack throw afterwards, kind of like King's back 4. So, yeah, the stance has quite a few things in it, right? It has a low counter hit that knocks down. It has mid-high and a mid-mid mix-up after the first mid. And so, again, a lot of this is going to depend on, like, what's the counterplay, how exactly does he go in the stance. But this could be actually really annoying when he does this for mix-up with a floor break, because if you try ducking so that you don't get full comboed, then you might get hit by this mid and then just have to eat a mid-low mix-up, right? So that's something to think about. And then this move as well, this was his 10-frame punish, 2-4. Before in Tekken, and now it looks like it has a third follow-up to it. So again, something to see is, like, because I'm sure that's still going to be his punish, but maybe that's going to be natural and counter hit, you know. Of course, the second hit's a high, so you duck it, so the last hit doesn't matter, but that's just something to keep in mind. So this is another thing that we see with Armor King throughout this trailer, is that he ducks a high and then doesn't do a While Rising launcher, which is really weird because Armor King hasn't had one in the past, but he has hop kick. And so you might think, like, oh, you know, they're just like showing that he doesn't have a While Rising launcher. But it's weird because they show this consistently throughout the trailer. They show it here, and then they show it with Yoshimitsu's Kincho forward too. And he does the heat engager after that as While Rising, like 3-2 or something. It's a heat engager. They never show him actually launch after crouching, which it might imply that maybe he doesn't have a hop kick anymore. It would be weird if he didn't, but again, something that remains to be seen. But they're really making a point here when showing this, that Armor King does not have a while standing launcher, which again isn't new, but if he doesn't have a hop kick to be able to punish after ducking these highs, that would definitely be new. Like, not having a launcher at all in this scenario would be new. So then what we see here, Fakenram does up forward 3. This is a -14 move, and King does his, God, I can't remember the notation for this move, but this is Armor King's 12 or 13 frame punish. You have to forgive me, okay? I didn't play Armor King in Tekken 7, so I'm not extremely familiar. I think it's like down back 1-2 or something, not that it matters. But the important point is that now this punish, whether it's 12 or 13, puts Armor King into stance here, and he doesn't have a like dedicated 14-frame punish, unless this is supposed to be his 14-frame punish, which would be weird because I'm positive that this wasn't a 14-frame punish before in Tekken 7. But yeah, this puts him in the stance, and now we can also see that he has a grab out of it. It doesn't look like the grab actually does that much as well. It leaves the opponent face down, feet towards, which means Armor King probably gets some sort of Oki afterwards, especially at the wall. But if you're using this as a tool to punish, say, Power Crush to go through maybe the mids and highs, then it's not going to be that strong unless it like breaks the wall there or something, which could be a little bit more powerful. But it doesn't look like it's actually going to be that strong, which is good, you know? Like, the low and the high, the low and the grab there is used specifically to beat, like, Power Crush and stuff, but it shouldn't give you, like, a ton of reward. So that's good. Now we get to the Steve lore here. Armor King does, you know, the classic, what every character in this game has. Plus on block high, right? Armor King, from what I remember in Tekken 7, used to be able to go in the stance after that. Here they show he doesn't. He does down forward 1 to try to frame trap with the plus frames. Steve does his whatever I still can't. It's been over a year. The game has been out for a year and a half, and I still can't remember the name of this garbage. But he does that. Heat smashes. Does his normal stuff. And then this is where it gets really interesting. Because King here does some sort of parry. It's not really a parry, but you know what I mean. It's like that same thing, you know, Reina has where she gets hit and then does a follow-up afterwards. And the interesting thing here is that Nakatsu said on Twitter that King does not have an install, which means that this might just be something that King can do always, because he's not in heat. And if he doesn't have an install, if he doesn't have anything like that going on, that presumably means that Armor King is free to always do this. And that would be very strong, but it would also be in line with King, because King has the muscle armor and then he gets the heat engager afterwards. So really what this is going to come down to in my mind, I think, is like after this flash animation, if there's a possibility you can duck. But considering that Steve literally freezes here, I mean, look at this. You see he's stuck here in this pose, and then if I hit play, he stays stuck in there for multiple frames. So I'm pretty sure this is guaranteed. That would be really... I don't know how to think about that. It's going to depend on the properties of it, of course. If it's like only mid punches, that would still actually be quite good. But again, we'll have to wait and see what the specific properties on this is. If it's just like any punch, then that would be extremely strong. If it's anything at all, that would be ridiculous, right? Except for, of course, lows and throws. But even then, it would still be ridiculous. So we'll have to see. But what's particularly interesting about this isn't that, it's the poison breath. And so a lot of people I've seen, and I don't know what the general consensus on this is. Again, I just woke up, so I haven't watched any videos or anything. But this poison breath that Armor King is doing is his rage drive in Tekken 7. And what that did is it gave Armor King a free guaranteed throw. Couldn't avoid it, couldn't duck it, couldn't break it. It was completely guaranteed. And we see that same thing here because we hear that noise that you get after you do a throw after like power crush or parry, meaning that this is guaranteed. And so a couple of people have told me that they think, well, but you can probably duck it or avoid it or something. How it worked in Tekken 7, I assume that's the exact same here, is that it left Armor King plus so many frames. I don't remember exactly how many. It was like plus 12 or something. And that meant that if you did the input right, stuff like Giant Swing was guaranteed. Now I obviously don't know if they've changed the frames, if you can do like instant Shining Wizard or something that'd be broken at the wall. But that's how it works. So these throws that Armor King are doing here, based on what they're showing, are guaranteed. There's no way to break them, you can't duck them, you can't do anything like that. So now we're seeing what I was talking about before, ducks Yoshimitsu's Kincho forward 2, and then he does the Wild Rising Punch to Heat Engager, and now while in Heat, he has access to this in neutral, out of Crouch Dash it seems, and then he gets a throw guaranteed afterwards, right? Which also breaks the floor, so that's going to be extremely strong. Now, it remains to be seen if this can be reacted to. You can probably react to the Crouch Dash and try ducking, but that's going to open you up to more of the mid options, right? So this is a very scary situation to deal with. But it does look faster than it was in Tekken 7, at least. In Tekken 7, it was kind of useless because you could just react to it and duck. But it does seem faster. Again, hard to say until we actually see in game. Yep, so there's a punish on the hot kick from Paul, and he has Armor King has like a 12 or 13 frame wall splat. I mean, he had that in Tekken 7 as well. 2-4 was a wall splat, so there you go. Yep, and then this is the 3+4, 3+4 we saw before. That hit is a high. I know it doesn't look like it, but it is. Instant Shining Wizard here breaks the wall, and then you can convert off it with a down jab. And then there's the Heat Smash, which looks like it's also going to be able to break the wall, so it seems pretty good. And then there's Scissor Kicks, and then we have While Rising 2 counter hit. This is, you know, this is what Armor King was able to do in Tekken 7 as well. He would key charge and do this, and then he would get this Burning Knuckle that has a blue spark on it. And you can see that the way this is working is he's breathing onto his hand to give him this fire power-up to be able to do the Fire Electric or the Fire Wind God Fist or whatever you want to call it. Then he gets all this stuff. And this is, again, where it gets a little bit interesting because, again, Nikatsu has said that Armor King doesn't have an install. But you can see that even in these neutral situations, like while Elisa is doing this, you can see he does this fire attack. You can see here he does this fire attack, this homing high. Here, he does it here after a block punish, right? And it's giving extra effects as well, right? You see it here with the power crush. And so my assumption on how this works, and I might be completely wrong here, but the only thing that makes sense to me is that Armor King might work the same as Hilda in Soul Calibur. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Hilda in Soul Calibur uses negative edge to do a lot of her moves. And if you don't know what that means, it means that what you're doing is you are holding down one of the attack buttons. So you do whatever, you hold this button down, and then when you want to do the attack, you release it. So instead of pressing the button, you have to hold it for however long. I don't remember how long it is with Hilda and Soul Calibur. It's like 30 frames or something. And then when you want to do the attack, release. And that would make sense with a lot of these moves as well, because like off of, say, if we go back here, you know, the While Rising 2, if you're holding the 2 button here when he does this, and then you crouch dash and release the 2, that would give you this, right? And then, if we also look at some of these other examples as well, this could be like release 1 and then press back, which is again something that Hilda does in Soul Calibur. Here it looks like it's just kind of a charge move. And then same with this punish as well, right? You do like the forward 2 or whatever, and then you release the 1 button, and then that gives you this follow-up. So that's my assumption. It could also just be that you hold the button and it's like a charge move. You know, it could be something simple like that. I don't know, but that's sort of what my brain goes to if I'm thinking like, how do we make Armor King unique and a little bit more creative? And then that would also explain all of this blue spark stuff. Again, it would be like we do the armor move here, like that, and then we release the 2 button, and then that gives us this. Again, might be completely wrong, but based on the fact that we see, like, in some of these instances, like, when he does this, that his hand isn't burning like he does with Ana when he goes on it, when he breathes on it, and he still does his follow-up and everything else. To me, that's what makes the most sense, right? But anyway, moving on from my speculation, now we got the lore with King versus Armor King. Now going into it here, get the grab, the throw break. And yeah, so Armor King has a high power crush, which is always... Actually, this might be a mid. It looks like a high, but now I'm looking at it again. After it gets absorbed, no, that's a mid. It looks a lot like a high. Whatever the case, we see that he goes in the stance off of it, and then he does this mid that we saw before that had the high extension we saw in the combo, but instead now he's doing a mid, which looks like it's natural and normal hit, and that gives this extension. Seems very strong, right? Lot of damage here. Is that guaranteed? Going here. Armor King has a unique wall jump. It's not going to be that good. It's like Yoshi's, right? Except it's probably worse than Yoshi's. And now what do we see here? We see that he like goes into the old stance from Tekken 7. And now while he's in that stance, he grabs Armor King out of his wall jump. And that gives him that follow-up. Doesn't wall splat, notably, so won't break the wall. Now continuing on, forward 2-1 is a punish just like King. It gives him heat engager. And then this is a lot of standard stuff. We're seeing some new things in here, some new wall combos, but none of that looks like it's going to be particularly useful in like neutral or anything. A lot of it looks like more of the same of what we see in either Tekken 7, or it just looks like it's going to be combo filler, right? This is interesting though. So his down, I think this is down forward 2. This used to give combo in Tekken 7. Now it doesn't. Now it only gives guaranteed follow-up, but that's pretty typical in Tekken 8. Pretty much every character that had a move like this that gave a combo afterwards is they don't have it anymore. It just gives them a guaranteed follow-up. So that's normal. Unblockable here. He has high unblockable. It's kind of hard to tell how reactable that's going to be because of the camera switch and everything. So don't really know the frames on that, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. He has crouch dash 1 still. Down forward 1 has an extension that on counter hit gives him a crouch grab guaranteed. Doesn't look like it's a heat engager notably. And then his while rising 1 counter hit into Rage Art. So yeah, I mean, Armor King looks pretty interesting. It's really, his Rage Art is also really good. I'm not a fan of Rage Arts. I'm sure we all already know this, but Armor King's Rage Art really does feel like a revamp, if you will, of King's Rage Art. In my opinion, King's Rage Art has always been a bit lackluster. I understand the reference and everything, but the ending where he like does the pin and then a second passes and then the character goes, "Ugh," and then the fire comes out, I've always thought was kind of lame and it had very little impact. I think that Armor King just kind of does King's Rage Art, but much better. It's like that impact is so much, sorry for the flashbang, it's so much better, so much better done, so much more well done than it was with King, I think, in my opinion. But yeah, I think that Armor King is, I'm not a fan of Armor King. I think I've said that time and time again. I'm not looking forward to this character. I've never really been interested in him. I don't care for grapplers, and I don't find Armor King to be particularly interesting gameplay-wise or design-wise. But I think that for people that do like Armor King, they did a good job with him, based on the trailer. Now, of course, we need to see gameplay. I'm not trying to say that right off the bat, based on this trailer, that I'm forming an opinion or anyone should, but based on what we've seen in this trailer, it doesn't look too egregious. It looks pretty straightforward. There are some things that look kind of like annoying, but for the most part, I think the important thing to take away from this trailer is that they are keeping the parts of Armor King that separate him from King, that make him unique, that make him well-liked by most players. And I think they've done a good job expanding on the flair that Armor King brings, his unique traits, and I like it. I like it despite not being a fan of Armor King. I think they did a pretty damn good job. And when it comes to the stance stuff as well, you know, that's going to be the one thing that's like, we'll have to wait and see. But as you also probably know, I'm not like adverse to stances, right? I'm not like super hard against stances. I'm not like, I hate stances. I hate stance mix-ups. At the end of the day, and I've made an entire video about this, having stances and having access to stances, it can both help and hinder a character in terms of like play expression, creativity, what you can do with the character design wise. And just based on this, it's very difficult to see how they've done that with Armor King. But you know, if you look at a character like Xiao Yu, for instance, like, listen, let's not even get into the debate of whatever we want to say with Xiao Yu being bullshit or too complicated or whatever. At the end of the day, her having stuff like AOP and back turn and all of those things adds to player expression, adds to creativity, and makes her stand out and be unique, right? Do I think based on this trailer that's necessarily going to be the case for Armor King? Not really. I think what that aspect is going to be for Armor King is whatever those burning attacks are. And that's where the creativity is probably going to really shine. But when it comes to all the stances and stuff that they've shown, you know, I have no opinion on it right now. That's just something that we're going to have to wait and see actual gameplay of him to be able to form an actual opinion of Armor King. So besides that, let's get on to the second part now, which I know everyone cares so much more about. And by everyone, I mean particularly me. And that is going to be Miary Zo. I think that's how we pronounce her name. I'm sorry, I'll figure it out. I think she looks great. I don't want to pull out the meme, but I think that she's just another example of Tekken players who are complaining about literally anything and everything. People with her have broken out the Peter Griffin skin color meme, but it's in the reverse order, saying that she's not dark enough or whatever. Listen, there's not obviously not gameplay to go off of, so we can't like analyze her gameplay, but from a design perspective, I really like her. They've done so much with like the colors on everything on her outfit, which I really love. The yellow nails as well. It looks nice to me. And listen, man, when it comes to how she looks and people being like, she doesn't look like she's from Africa or all this other bullshit, dude. The sun is shining on her face. Like, look at this. The sun is shining on her face. If we go back and look at her feet, and yes, I know, I'm sorry, but there's clearly a difference when it comes to the lighting. I don't know. I don't understand why Tekken players are just going to complain about literally everything. But stop doing the Peter Griffin meme. It's fucking weird, and it's kind of awful, to be honest with you. But from like a design perspective, I love all of the little details. I love the flowers on everything. The first time I saw her, it actually reminded me a lot of Talum. And I guess that a lot of people from Madagascar, from what I've read, have like some roots in Indonesia and stuff. And so like Indonesia and Philippines obviously aren't that far apart from each other, so maybe that's why I'm kind of getting that vibe. But yeah, I think she looks really good. I think that there's clearly been a lot of care and attention put into her design. And the fighting style that she uses as well seems interesting. I like her. And the red eyes I also think are particularly interesting. And the reason why is because every single, like, okay, so a major plot point in Soul Calibur and Tekken, when it comes to any character that has red eyes, is that they have, in Tekken, some sort of connection to Azazel, right? So you have Kazuya, of course, you have Jin with his glowing red eyes, especially you see that all the time in Tekken 8 when he does crouch dash and stuff. You also see that with Ogre, and you see that in the intro for Tekken 8 when you see like the Mishima clan fighting throughout like the past millennia against all of these like creations of Azazel. They all have red eyes, right? All of the demons that they're fighting, they all have red eyes. And in Soul Calibur as well, red eyes are one of the symptoms of being malfested. What does malfested mean? It means that you have been like influenced by Soul Edge. And there are a lot of parallels in the story between Soul Edge and like Azazel and the Devil Gene. In fact, there are so many parallels that it can't be a coincidence, and they're probably connected in some way. The red eyes just being one of those things, right? So every single character in Tekken and Soul Calibur that has red eyes, there's always been a point to only make characters have red eyes if they have that connection in some way. And so her having red eyes means that story-wise, she might actually have some sort of connection to the Devil Gene or Zazzle or Ogre. And Harada's recently made a tweet where he said that apparently Ogre exists on like every continent, every island, and every archipelago. There is an ogre on every single one of those. So the ogre that we know from the Native Americans in North America isn't the only ogre that exists. And that means that there is an ogre somewhere in Madagascar because Madagascar is an island. And so these things are so coincidental, it makes me think that there's no way that it can be like a coincidence that they just did that, because this would be the first and only character with red eyes that has none of those connections. Harada's just recently made that tweet, and this is also a brand new character, and because it's a new character, there's probably going to be some connection with the story, some significant connection. I don't think they would just roll someone in there and then just be done with it. So all of these things are and all these coincidences line up to me in a way that I feel like it can't be a coincidence, and that she's going to have some sort of story relevance in connection with Ogre or something. So we'll see what there is to see in that regard, but I think she looks really great. If you don't know, I'm a Tala main in Soul Calibur, and I also played Josie in Tekken 7, and she gives me that same kind of like the first time I saw her, like I said, it immediately made me think of Talim for whatever reason, and that makes me even more interested to play her. So I'm definitely going to be giving her a shot. I hope she's fun. I hope she plays well. And for God's sake, people, just because she is a woman with brown hair wearing whatever this top is, whether you want to call it a bikini or just a bra or whatever, doesn't mean that she's just Christy, okay? There are more than one women with a face and brown hair. I'm sorry, but anyway, that's gonna do it for this video, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this one. And again, if you want to see my initial reaction to all of this, it's going to be on the second channel, link down below. Anyway, hope you all have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye!